The courageous search for the Titan deep-sea submersible captivated the world.
The debris is consistent with the catastrophic loss.
But amidst this shared curiosity, a chilling question arises. What exactly happens to a human body when a submarine implodes? Imagine handing a 5-year-old child an air balloon and asking her to poke it. In an instant, it vanishes. The same phenomenon happens in reverse beneath the ocean, but much more swiftly. To put it simply, no remains are likely to be found, yet the unsettling details behind this grim truth are enough to haunt your dreams. The term catastrophic implosion has gained even more attention since the United States Coast Guard's recent announcement about the ill-fated Titan submersible. Officials involved in the rescue efforts have discovered the debris, shedding light on the gravity of the incident. Think of an implosion as the opposite of an explosion, where forces from all directions push inward with such tremendous intensity that an object collapses, similar to a soda can when crushed. Surprisingly, even the smallest scratch or dent in a submarine structure can create a weak spot vulnerable to the immense pressure applied by the surrounding water. The implosion happens so swiftly that any warnings would be futile. To understand how that's possible, we need to focus on a crucial factor: pressure. Whether it be a person, a fish, or submersible equipment, when they venture underwater, water presses against them from every direction, applying equal pressure on all sides. At the ocean's surface, this pressure resembles what we experience on land, similar to the weight of Earth's atmosphere at sea level. For purposes of measuring it, this is called 1 atmosphere. As we ascend to higher elevations, atmospheric pressure decreases because of less air pressing from above. However, as we venture deeper into water, pressure increases. This underwater pressure is called hydrostatic pressure, with hydro meaning water and static referring to a state of rest. The more water lies above, the stronger the force it applies. However, water pushes not only downward, as already mentioned, it applies pressure from all sides, including below. We know this upward force as buoyancy, allowing us to float in water. At a depth of just 10 meters or 33 feet, pressure doubles compared to the surface. In fact, for every 10-meter increment, pressure increases by 1 atmosphere. To illustrate using recent events, the Titanic rests approximately 12,500 feet, or 3,800 meters below the surface, subjecting it to a staggering pressure approximately 380 times greater than that at the surface, equivalent to around 380 atmospheres, or a crushing 6,500 pounds of pressure per square inch. Our human body is not equipped to withstand such extreme pressures, especially when exposed to sudden and drastic changes. Just to give you an idea, our bodies can handle roughly 50 pounds per square inch. However, at this mentioned depth, a person would experience pressures 130 times beyond their tolerance. As a result, the body's various systems suffer immediate and catastrophic damage simultaneously. Our lungs and air-filled spaces in the head become prone to collapse, instantly crushing the body. The air in the lungs is instantly compressed to the size of an earbuds case. That's why deep ocean creatures don't have air pockets within their bodies. In essence, your body's systems, respiratory, circulatory, and central nervous alongside the tissues would be utterly crushed, disintegrating your body into pieces in an instant. Though the outcome is undeniably tragic, there is a glimmer of insight. According to Dave Corley, a former U.S. nuclear submarine officer, when a submarine's hull collapses, it inwardly moves at an astonishing speed of approximately 1,500 miles per hour, or 2,414 kilometers per hour. This is equivalent to 2,200 feet per second, or 671 meters per second. Thus, the complete collapse occurs in just 1 millisecond, or 1,000th of a second. In comparison, a human brain instinctively responds to a stimulus in roughly 25 milliseconds, while a rational response, from sensing to acting, typically takes around 150 milliseconds. That's 25 to 150 times slower than the speed of the implosion. Therefore, the unfortunate individuals aboard the Titan could never have comprehended the unfolding events. It happened far too quickly for the brain to make sense, or even transmit pain signals. However, there's another crucial aspect to consider. Inside a submarine, the air may contain a concentration of hydrocarbon vapors. When the hull collapses, the air undergoes spontaneous ignition, leading to a subsequent explosion after the initial rapid implosion. Temperatures can soar dramatically. In an instant, the explosion engulfs all the crushed fragments, potentially reducing them to ashes and dust. As unfortunate as it may be, this decomposed matter, blending with water, becomes part of marine life. That's why experts and researchers, well-versed in the consequences of catastrophic implosions, believe that recovering the remains of a human body becomes an overwhelming challenge. If you like this video, hit that subscribe button now and join our community. By subscribing, you'll help us create and share even more powerful stories that will brighten our day and broaden our perspectives. Your simple action can make a big difference to our mission.
When a manned submarine reaches its implosion depth, the consequences are fatal. Today we take a look at what happened to the passengers when their submarine reached the depth of destruction. There are two critical crushing depths underwater. The depth that engineers say is the limit for diving, and the depth at which a submarine actually implodes. In the case of OceanGate's Titan, the limit depth where it could not resist more pressure is 4,000 meters, but now we know that it has been destroyed before reaching that depth. In fact, the maximum it could have descended is 3,800 meters, in the seabed where the remains of the shipwreck are located. There are several hypotheses of why it is believed that the submarine did not hold up this time, when it had already made multiple trips to the remains of the Titanic, without suffering technical failures. The one that has the most support and credibility is that of director of Titanic and Avatar himself, James Cameron, who designed his own submarine with the help of Australian engineers, and now holds the record for the deepest voyage into the Mariana Trench, the deepest point in the ocean at about 11,000 meters below sea level. Apart from having descended to the remains of the Titanic more than 30 times. According to Cameron and confirmed by the Submersible Regulations Bureau, carbon fiber, the material with which the submersible's main hull was built, doesn't have the necessary specs to withstand thousands of pounds of pressure per square inch, as thick as it may be. Even though they made it 5 inches thick, although very strong, it's still a composite material and doesn't have the same lifespan as titanium and hardened steel, which was used on Cameron's Deep Challenger. That's why with each trip, it weakened to the point where it could no longer resist, and once cracked it ended up disintegrating, like a piece of ultra-tempered glass, under millions of tons of pressure. Sadly, the Titan sub disintegrates in a fraction of a second, turning into scrap metal, just as the signal to the mothership is lost, and communication with the polar ship on the surface is cut off. Pipes and accessories begin to fail as the carbon fiber hull with titanium parts crackles, signaling structural failure. As the hull rattles and creaks before collapsing, the implosion disintegrates everyone on board in 1 millisecond. Instead of slowly seeping in, the water rushes, either trapping air in a bubble at one end of the submersible or generating so much heat that the hull implodes, killing everyone inside. Body parts are among the rubble rising upward and now lying just a few feet from the Titanic. Very chilling, but yet comforting knowing that the pain or suffering was minimal, and it all unfolds so fast that the nerves aren't fast enough to send signals to the brain for them to feel it. It's basically like a Thanos snap. To put it bluntly, the crew became kinda like a human sauce in the blink of an eye. The anatomy behind this is that it takes time for information like pain to travel through your nerves to the brain and be processed. In the case of pain, it takes approximately 100 milliseconds, that is 99 milliseconds more than the implosion took. The incredible thing is that it takes 13 milliseconds to process visual images, which means they disappeared before realizing what they saw. There were 5 people in the Titan submersible. Suppose they weigh 80 kilos each. That means that there are about 400 kilos of remains that have to go somewhere. So why do they say they won't find them? Well, first we must take into account the heat, because the submersible produces a giant air bubble inside. The pressure compresses that air, and when that happens, it heats up to approximately the temperature of the sun, about 5,000 degrees Celsius. The time of exposure is not enough to melt the remains of metals and other materials, but any living being would be immediately reduced to a paste, being expelled at an extremely high speed, becoming available as food for other living beings. Although it sounds horrible, is where at some point we are all going to end up.